The following content is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
Hello, my name is Marina Sprocki, and I am the host of Always Another Way podcast. I am the IPPY Award-winning author of Stop Looking for a Husband, Find the Love of Your Life, and Nasty Divorce, A Kid's Eye View. I have a master's in professional counseling. I write positive divorce advice for the HuffPost, and I'm trained in clinical hypnosis. And this podcast speaks to out-of-the-box thinkers, and it's for those who hear the call of hope and always another way. And if you're very rigid and set in your beliefs, this is probably not your cup of tea. However, you should note, taste can, and do change. And I just want to thank everyone again for listening to this podcast. And I was just thinking last night, about how much joy I really derive from doing this podcast. This is the 84th episode today, and I have had the pleasure of speaking with now going to be 84 super intelligent people who are out-of-the-box thinkers, game changers, people with hearts of gold who are doing things to make a difference. And so if you haven't yet, just go on back and check out all of the different episodes I have, share with friends, and you will be inspired. And it's just so nice to know that there are just wonderful, smart people out there doing things to change the world. And my next guest is no different. And we're going to be talking about, essentially, your brain first with Susan Kenney. And just imagine, a lot of us, we'll go to the doctor for physical things. And we think physical kind of like neck down, broken arm, or maybe even like have a cold or something. But without your brain, you're pretty much useless. It controls everything. I mean, everything. And in today's day and age, we are more stressed out than ever. Stress is a killer. For sure. But what can you do about that, and what does your brain have to do with it? Well, Susan Kenney is the co-founder and director of Therapeutic Wellness at Emergo Recovery. It's a private residential recovery and wellness center focused on the brain-first approach. Susan has dedicated her extensive career to helping individuals reclaim their life after struggles with debilitating challenges. She harnesses her expertise in nutrition, functional medicine, education, brain health, and positive psychology to help clients restore their mind-body health and inspire the spirit. Susan is a certified brain health coach through the Amen Clinics, a certified life coach through the Whole Being Institute, and master's certified brainwave optimization technician, a certified sports nutritionist through Body Mind Institute, and a Reiki master. Susan is currently studying functional medicine at the Kresser Institute, which focuses on uncovering root causes of personal imbalance and dysfunction, empowering clients towards greater well-being and happiness. And welcome to the show, Susan.
Hi, Monica. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, well, I am just so excited to talk to you. I'm a trauma therapist who does outside-of-the-box things, and when I first saw Emergo Recovery and the different things you did, I was just like, oh my gosh, so wonderful. I mean, just absolutely amazing. And first, when I read here, I'm just going to read something from your website. And this is the beginning. It says, you've tried everything, and I'm sort of paraphrasing from the middle of a sentence. You've tried everything and nothing has worked. Welcome to Emergo Recovery. Compared to what's offered everywhere else, what we do here is so radically different and yet so logical that it works. Hundreds of adults have left Emergo with the wellness and tools to move forward and lead healthy, happy lives. We're not your typical treatment program or wellness retreat. And what's so different about Emergo? Well, I figured we would just start with a bang, and maybe you could just tell everybody what is different about Emergo when people think about treatment centers, like from the brain first and what you do?
Marina, if anybody had said at some point in my life I was going to be focused on brain and a brain approach to helping people that have worked with people a lot more educated than I was, I would have been shocked, stunned, and amazed. And yet, what's happened is the evolution. Years ago, my husband Dave is the co-founder as well. And we decided that the brain drives all behavior. And so if the brain drives all behavior, then we better be looking at the organ itself in order to be able to help people overcome very debilitating challenges. And so that was what we set out to do was create a program, a residential program that leverages and harnesses neuroscience as the foundation. So that is the big difference for Emergo, Marina, is that we look at the brain on the day that people arrive. We use technology to be able to create an assessment of the brain, and that tells a life story. We can look at early childhood through the brain. We can look at current time frame, and we can bring relief in a very scientific way because we can quantify the data.
I love that. And I mean, and that is so true. I mean, the brain does control so many things, and there's so many things that can happen. And when you can see that, you can just see all the differences in what's going on. And so what type of people could benefit from this type of treatment? Like what type of clients do you get coming to Emergo, and for what types of things? So if I said, okay, I'm having a little bit of issues and I want to try a different approach. What I'm doing isn't working, and we're coming to you.
Yeah, we break it into two categories of people that come. So there are people who just want better wellness. They know that they need a reset. They know that they need to be somewhere for a period of time, maybe to reset diet and to get sleep established again and to introduce movement. So they're coming for more of a wellness program. And then we have people that are coming for actual recovery, and that can be from an addiction. It can be from stress in the life, which has caused the depression or anxiety, or people that have PTSD. So they stay with us a little bit longer. A program for recovery is anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, depending on the person. And sometimes it's physiological. So sometimes people come that their mobility has been compromised, or they have been diagnosed with a disease, and they want an alternative, and they want to look at it in a more health conscious way or a holistic way.
I love that. And there's another part there where you say, when you're talking about just some of the mental health stuff, that depression and anxiety are symptoms and not a diagnosis. And I love that too, because that's what I tell people, that nobody's ever stuck in any one mental state for forever.
Right.
There's
Right.
no such person that is stuck one way. But I like that you do that. And I just want to know what are your all's your reasoning behind saying that, and kind of how you attack it a little bit differently.
Yeah. First of all, let's take depression. Depression is overwhelming sadness and absolutely debilitating. The people that come to us have been suffering for a period of time. And yet, feeling depressed is a human experience. We all feel it. For anxiety to be a diagnosis, again, I mean, we all feel anxious at times, and it's critical. We need to feel anxious at times. If you're in a dangerous situation, you need to feel the anxiety.
Right.
The night before you do something important, you are going to feel nervous and anxious. And so it doesn't have to be a diagnosis. It's a symptom that we need to look a little bit deeper. And so that's why we say we use it as a way to help people identify. And I'll give you a great example. I was talking to one of our clients yesterday, and she's had an issue with time management for her whole life. And one of the things we work on is structure, is showing up on time and being able to go through the day. And she was a little bit late for an appointment that I had with her yesterday. And we got into this great discussion about time. And I said, so what happens? How do you feel when you're always running late? And she said, well, I feel, a bunch of words. And then she said, I feel anxious. And I said, oh, okay. So one of the main reasons that you're here is to overcome that feeling of feeling anxious. So what would happen if you're on time? And let's walk through that. And Marina, it was a great discussion where she was able to identify that she creates a lot of the anxiety that happens in her life before she came to Emergo by not being diligent and being on time. So is it a symptom? Yeah, it's a symptom that you're not running your life very well. So we can work on that. That's a tangible.
Yeah, which is really cool to just be able to see it in that way that like, oh, okay, I could do some a little bit better time management stuff and
Yeah.
come back around again.
And not feel like I have a diagnosis. It was a light bulb moment for her.
Yeah.
Because she's been told for years that she has anxiety, like it's been given to her and she can't give it back. And yesterday's discussion it just happened at the most perfect time where she was able to say, well, maybe I don't have anxiety as a diagnosis. Maybe there's things that I can do in my life that will create these feelings of calm.
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely love that because everybody does have like those times where we feel like that. And then you can sort of back up and do things for that. And along with that, depression and anxiety, which are things I agree with you, everybody floats in and out of these states. And usually they're reason bound, and discovering that. But
And also physically in the body. So
yeah,
when the gut isn't functioning properly or the liver has too many toxins in it, it absolutely connects to depression and anxiety. It's the body telling you, hey, I've got too much to detox and you're going to have to take better care of me. And so those feelings absolutely may be linked to something deeper that you need to explore for your long-term health.
yeah, and it's nice that so at Emergo you can check out all of those things. So you are just completely checking everything out with everybody. All the do you do like blood work and tests like that too for people?
Depends. Yeah, I mean, most of the time, because people are in such a holistic environment, change happens really quickly. What we learned years ago is we used to do a lot of blood work and we used to do a lot of hormone testing, but by the time we got the results back, the person was feeling so differently that the results actually weren't accurate anymore
Oh,
because
wow.
there had been so much change.
Right? Oh, well, that's cool. So, and you can feel you will know yourself when those changes happen for sure. And so let's talk about another thing that just I know everybody deals with, but it can be overwhelming and can have consequences on your vital organs and other health consequences, but stress. So, what
Yeah,
does stress do to the body and to the brain?
yeah. Everybody that comes to Emergo or everybody that is struggling has had stress, and the stress has reached the tipping point. So if you think about it in any other organ other than the brain, let's say you're skiing and you're bombing down the hill and you hit a tree and the bone that hits the tree in your leg breaks. Well, it breaks because of stress. So in that moment, there has been too much physiological stress on the bone and the bone cannot take it. And so the bone fractures. So let's think about the brain and the nervous system in the same context. When somebody has had too much stress, and that stress can be physical, like concussion or illness, food poisoning, things like that. It can be emotional, where you've had overwhelming events and too many of them in a small period of time where somebody has passed away. And so you're suffering from the loss and grief. But these are stress. PTSD is stress
Mm-hmm.
that has happened to the brain and nervous system. And so we know that the brain has neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity means that we have the ability to grow new neural pathways and to distance ourselves from the neural pathways of stress that were created by the stressful event or events. And so many people that come to us, though, this is something that we found over the years, actually began life or early life with stress. And that can be a birth trauma.
Right.
So several times in a month, somebody will say to me, I had a really normal birth. Everything was fine. I was born cesarean section and everything was good. Cesarean section, although it is absolutely necessary and it has saved the lives of children and moms, is a stressor because it's not a natural birth. And so a lot of the people who come to us have had a birth trauma where it's been forceps or it's been suction or an emergency situation. And it seems to really create a pattern in the brain from the very earliest development. And so then when they're younger, they may have challenges, education challenges, or problems making friends socially. The families that I talk to say, my other two kids are so easy to be with, but this one is really difficult to be with, and problems sleeping and digesting food and all of those things. And when we're able to look at the brain, we're able to determine that the brain has actually been under a state of stress since they were small children.
That's
so
amazing.
Stress absolutely contributes to our mental well-being. It contributes to everything in life.
Yeah, and with concussions and things like that, with neuroplasticity, people can do different things to kind of help grow new things from that as well, too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you bet.
which is just super, super cool because, yeah, stress is a toxic load, and being able to alleviate that can just open up a whole new things. And for clients that you have, I don't know if you have anybody that you can say, like, I know there's one girl on your website who came in, had concussions, and you have her, like, it's 4 years later, which is really nice that you have somebody that's removed. It's not just a fix where you're just like, okay, you're going to be good for the next month,
Yeah,
but a long-term fix.
yeah. And she was actually with us in 2012. She did come and visit us over the summertime as well, and spent some time with the clients. So that clip is already a few years old, and her life just took off. She actually, the night we picked her up at the airport, she was really out of it. She was a hockey girl. She had had 2 concussions back to back. She was the captain of her university hockey team. And the next morning when she woke up, she had no recollection of where she was.
Wow.
She didn't remember arriving on the plane. She didn't remember being picked up at the airport. And she woke up in the room and had no idea where she was.
Oh, wow. That's kind
And
of frightening.
so, and everything was affected. She was
Yeah.
told by the trainers and by doctors, this is your life. This is what you're going to have to live with.
Wow.
And you may have to quit school. And so we were so lucky. The family found us, and within a few short weeks, she was back at university and doing extremely well, back on the hockey team, graduated with honors, and has the most fabulous career. She's traveled the world in the last few years, and she's an amazing young woman. So that was what she thought was her life was going to be after concussion. She couldn't attend school. She had started using substances to get relief, because that's why we use substances, is to bring relief. It's
Yeah.
not because somebody says, wow, I want to be an addict and I want to really disappoint myself and my family. They're doing it to bring about some relief to the brain. And so we've got to go back to look at the brain.
Yeah, and so you think so and that's probably really good for addiction too, when people are using things like that to come check that
Again,
out.
you're
Yeah.
you're using it just to bring relief to the brain.
Sure.
So typically, if somebody is using alcohol or they're using marijuana, it slows the brain down. So you've got a brain activity problem, and it's usually in the frontal part of the brain where the brain is very overactive. And then somebody who's using a stimulant has areas of the brain that are below the average in function. And so they're using it as a stimulus.
That's cool. And so then people can come to you with like, hey, I have this issue, and you've got the exact right thing for them depending on what they're doing and knowing that part of the brain.
It's very tailored. We tailor the program for everybody. It's never been the same program for two people.
I love that because everybody is different, so that makes a whole lot of sense that you would do that. Absolutely. And for the people listening, so as they're doing this, is there anything while we're still talking about brain and brain health, things that people can do, what could we do to take care of our brains like before it gets to a critical mass point?
Yeah, I think there was work in the 1960s. Marion Diamond, who was born in 1929, remarkable woman. And she actually was the first person that discovered neuroplasticity. And so she was working out of UC Berkeley, and beautiful lady. And what they were able to ascertain is if the rats lived in an impoverished environment, and so impoverished meant there weren't great social connections, there wasn't great food, they were isolated, there was no stimulation, those rats' brains actually shrank. And so they died earlier, and they were much just didn't have lives that were very fulfilling. What they did was they put rats into an enriched environment. So these are the 5 things that everybody can focus on. And it was determined in the 1960s that these 5 key areas led to a larger brain mass, better neural connections, and in general, happiness. And first was nutrition. So eating real food, eating food that doesn't have ingredients was important. Number 2 was having movement, being able to move the brain, especially when there's been trauma, is really important. And Peter A. Levine's work talks about this. Being able to move the body helps to move trauma through the body. Number 3 is our brains love newness and they love learning. So be a lifelong learner, and you're well on your way to having a better brain. The 4th thing that they discovered was being challenged. The brain loves to be challenged. So whether that is puzzles, whether that's putting yourself into new situations, whatever it is, make sure that you have challenge and things that your brain needs to process and work on. And number 5 was love. As soon as they introduced love, and it was introduced by a European scientist to the group in UC Berkeley, they said, you don't take your rats out and hold them. And we do in Europe. And so as soon as they did that, they had longer life and much more happiness.
Wow.
So those are the 5 things that people can focus on that really bring about a bigger brain.
Nice. And they all seem very accessible to get.
Very.
Yes. And so, and how did you know, kind of when you came into this, that when you just sort of, discovered these different things about the brains, that helping people was what you wanted to do? Were you kind of always like that, or was it just?
Yeah, that goes way back. I grew up with a sister that was mentally challenged. And so she was born brain damaged at birth. And it wasn't until we had actually been working for a couple of years that we put together that the reason I'm so passionate about what I do is I saw her struggle to the extreme every day at not having a brain that was able to function. So she was born with lack of oxygen at birth, and was could never take care of herself, did not speak. So she was completely dependent on the family. So that's where I learned that taking care of people was important. That was just part of daily life. I was the younger sister. So that was part of our life.
Okay, that was going to lead me into my next question. I'm always curious about this, about people that help other people. Like, what was the predominant behavior that you noticed from adults while you were growing up, like as a child, from your view? What did you notice? Different behaviors from different people, or what did you see? It sounds like you saw a lot of help in your house, but
Yeah, I grew up in a really small town. I grew up in a very small community. So I went to the same school for the first 9 years of life, kindergarten through grade 8. So the adults that I had in my life were solid farm community people. And what I saw from them is they were really impeccable with their word, and they were really solid people. So that's what I noticed about adults growing up is they were trustworthy, and they were understated, and they dressed up for church on Sundays, but other than that, they were on the farm.
Nice. And then it's nice to see people just helping others. And then when you find a way and all that, that probably led you to kind of where you are now. And then I'm wondering, are there other things that you might want to tell our listeners just about Emergo, actualized recovery, and all the stuff that you do that might be, exciting?
I'd love to. So we call it actualized recovery. We've broken it into 5 different areas. So the brain is in the middle, and I can move a little bit and you might be able to see the poster behind me, but everything comes back to brain. Brain is driving all behavior. If you're not sleeping, it's likely because your brain isn't functioning properly, and it's not about taking a tablet. It's about restoring brain health again. So the first thing that we look at is biology. And what that means is, first of all, looking at the brain, but we look at gut function, we look at sleep, we look at the body itself in terms of oxygen and mobility. And before we do any of the therapeutic work, we want to restore energy. And so the greatest food, we follow something called a Whole30 diet, which is a paleo, it's under the blanket of paleo, but it's an elimination diet. And the reason that it's significant is most people have massive amounts of inflammation when they come to us. And so we want to eliminate foods that we know trigger inflammation. So the Whole30 is a key component of what we do. And also helping the liver detox, or helping the body detox. And detox is physical, but it's also emotional. It's also really distancing yourself from drama.
Mm-hmm.
And drama can excite the nervous system and create a really negative response in the body too. So we talk a lot about how to distance yourself from that drama. The second thing that we focus on is the psychological. So we do CBT. We work on a lot of experiential therapies. We do wilderness therapies. We're out in nature. Biophilia is being in nature, and our bodies actually reset and they connect when we're in nature. That's why we
Yes.
all feel so awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah. And then spiritual, we don't focus on religion. We're a non-denominational, but we do look at spirit. And spirit is that uniqueness that we have. It's following your bliss. It's discovering your bliss, and looking at what your core values are, and really living what those core values are. So spirit is really important. Then social, and social and connection. We know that loneliness is the driver of depression for many people,
Mhm.
is feeling isolated and feeling alone and feeling that you don't have a connection. So there's a number of things that we do. From we play a lot of games. We had a woman arrive with us yesterday, and I don't know if you've ever heard of pickleball,
Mm-hmm.
Marina. That pickleball is one of the funnest things you can do for the brain. And Dave likes to describe it by saying, if tennis and table tennis had a baby, it would be pickleball. So it's played outside or on a court, and it has a low net. But how you react to that is you start to laugh, and you start to connect, and you start to feel, and you're creating new neural pathways. We also do a lot of acts of kindness. So we're out in the community a lot, and we're helping people. And no matter how badly you feel, if you can help somebody else, you're going to feel a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
And it's knowing that you have the ability to be able to do that can be a really pivotal turning point for a lot of people in our program. And I think Tom Hanks is coming out with a new movie, and he's playing Mr. Rogers. And for those that don't know, Mr. Rogers was one of the
I loved
kindest
him.
men on the planet. He had no other agenda other than to help children really feel good about themselves. And so what we focus on in connections is helping people feel good about themselves. And so that's where the positive psychology comes in as well, the science of happiness. And then we bring it all together with lifestyle. And so we know that an AM and PM routine is really important for us on an Emergo with our clients, the life that you really want to live. If you can get up and you're excited about your day, you're living the life that you want. And if there isn't that, then you're staying in bed because there's nothing to look forward to, or the day is overwhelming. So creating the lifestyle with all of the things that really you are unique and you're meant to do on the planet.
I love that. I mean, that really is just such a gift. And just for people to know that you're just never stuck, that there is always help in just such a wonderful place like Emergo. And so, what do you have coming up, and how can people connect with you? I'm going to put everything in the show notes, your website and everything else. But if for those of you that have liked what you heard and you want to know more, you have just a lot of things that you can offer people for a better life.
Yeah, we've hit on something, and people always ask us what our success rate is. Our success rate is through the roof. We're in the high 80s, early 90s in people that are reporting back months later. But the reason is they've focused on brain health. So it's having a brain first program, or even your listeners focusing on their brain will make all the difference. So you can find us at emergorecovery.com. And we've just launched a podcast too. So last
Nice.
week, Marina, Emergo Radio was born, and so I think we have 5 podcasts up there now. The first 2 are just describing actualized recovery and what we do, and a little more in detail. But there's a couple of other good ones, including one that is for parents that are wondering how they can help their adult children. So that might be
that's good.
You listen to too.
Really nice. And where can people find that? On all the podcast apps, off your website?
Anywhere they can find it, anywhere that they listen to podcasts. Emergo Radio.
Wonderful. Well, I just want to thank you so much for just sharing all of this. And I love it that you're doing just brain first. And that just answers a lot of questions. I think that you could go for a more direct, why you're getting such good success is you're not shooting in the dark. You've got a blueprint and things that really, really work. And then that whole actualized recovery program, which I love that you've put it together like that, because really, truly, those are the pieces that when those are in alignment, your life does go smoothly.
And I'm sure Maslow's hierarchy is where we borrowed the term actualize from. So Maslow talked about self-actualization as being what one can be, one must be. And everybody has a purpose. Everybody's got a dharma. And what we help people do is uncover that.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on the show and sharing your knowledge. And
Thanks, Marina.
You're
Thanks
so
much.
welcome. And for all of you listening, you know that there's always another way.